All right, we're going to do the first free response from review day 12. And I actually was almost through this one a little bit earlier today, but my very fancy Apple iPhone 5 ran out of storage. So I'm going to walk you through what I had here, and then we'll finish it off together. So we have this table of values of Brandon and his velocity. We have Chloe's piecewise function of her velocity. First question said, how many miles did Chloe travel from 0 to 2? So the total amount she traveled is going to be the integral of her velocity from 0 to 2. And since her velocity is always positive, we don't have to worry about the absolute value part on that. So you got a point if you just simply had that integral set up. So then we put the piece of C2 that works from 0 to 2 in there, and we think of that as a U sub if you want. And so off to the side, you could do a U sub on that and work it all out. What I did was I just said, well, look, if I had this, I know this is going to be the principal part of it. And if I were to take the derivative of this, the derivative of that would be negative 2t. I want the t part, but not the negative 2. So I want a negative 1/2 that would cancel that negative 2 and give me just 1 there. All right. So that's the integral. If you were able to integrate it, that's worth a point. And we're integrating that from 0 to 2, so I'm going to put 2 into there, and that gives me e to the 0, or 1. So I get a negative 1/2 there. And if I were to put 0 in, I get e to the 4th. And so it'd be minus negative 1/2 e to the 4th. So the minus and negative becomes plus. And as crazy as that looks, that is how many miles she traveled, and that's worth 1 point there. Okay. Part B says, is her speed increasing or decreasing? And hopefully we've done enough of these to have you remember that for speed, we think about velocity and acceleration. So her velocity, we just throw it into the function, and we get, for 3, we get 12 minus 3 times 3 minus 3 squared, which is negative 6. That's less than 0, so she has a negative velocity at that point. And then we take the derivative of it, which is negative 3 minus 2t, and we put 3 into that, and we get negative 3 minus 6, which is negative 9. That's also negative, right? So she has a negative velocity and negative acceleration. So since velocity and acceleration have the same sign, Chloe's speed is increasing at t equal 3. So you got a point for finding velocity and acceleration, and you got a point for saying that the speed was increasing because of it. Is there a time where Brandon's acceleration has to equal 2.5? So this has that mean value idea to it. So we go and it says from 0 to 4, so we'd look there first. And sure enough, if we do the average rate of change for Brandon in that interval, we get 10 over 4, which is 2.5. So if you did that part first, you'd get a point. And then just that alone doesn't prove it. We have to say why that matters. And so since b of t is continuous and differential, the mean value theorem would guarantee a time for that. If you just say mean value theorem, I don't know if that's going to give you the full credit or not. You probably have to say something about continuous and differentiable too. Okay, but a point there. All right. Is there a time from 0 to 2 where Brandon's velocity is equal to Chloe's? Now, we don't know anything other than these times here for Brandon. So we know that Brandon's initial velocity at 0 was equal to 1. And we know that his velocity at 2 is equal to 1.5, right? That's what we know there. So let's think about Chloe. Chloe initially, if I put 0 in, I get 0 times this, so she's 0. So at first, Brandon's velocity is greater than hers, right? And if I put 2 into Chloe's, then I get 2 times e to the 0, so I get 2 times 1, which is 2. So then at 2, now Chloe has a greater one, right? So here's the deal. Because b of t and c of t are continuous, because b and t and c of t are continuous, they must equal at some point for 0 to 2, because b of 0 is greater than c of 0, but C of 2 is greater than B of 2. Now, we're basically trying to say that at some point, to make this kind of switch, at some point, they would have to equal. So you could say, because B of t are continuous, they must equal at some point for 0, 2 because of this. And you even want to state it out, you could if you wanted to. They gave you 1 point for this consideration and then 1 point for the explanation on that.